Great. So welcome to this Web Guys webinar. Today, our guest speaker is Gary Pallans from Flywire IT. I'm going to let him do his own introductions, but he's going to be talking about cyber security, which is obviously a very, very important topic in this day and age. A little bit of housekeeping before we do that. This is a Zoom webinar rather than a Zoom meeting. So I think everybody's used to Zoom meetings now with the strange times we live in. But this is slightly different. So as an attendee to the webinar, you can hear what any of the hosts are saying. You can see when we're sharing our screens, that type of things, but we can't hear or see you. On your Zoom screen, there should be a button or an option for Q&A, which is questions and answers, obviously. So if you have any questions, then if you can type them in there, and then what we've got the option to do at the end of Gary's talk is either to basically answer that live, so talk you through an answer, which I guess we'll probably do, or we can type a reply. I think we'll probably sort of take questions and answer live, see how we go on that. Great, so I will, without further ado, I am going to hand over to Gary. And Gary, you're already a co-host, so I think you should just be able to share your screen now, and that will override the current screen share that I'm doing.
Great, let's see if we can get this going. This one here. All right, how does that look? Are we
Great,
good?
Great, we're good to go. Yeah, so let's.
Lovely. Right. Good morning, everyone. My name's Gary, and I'm from Flywire Technical Services. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about phishing and the bits that go around that. So I'm going to sort of just take one step back, and we'll talk about why phishing is so important and how it fits into the greater scheme of cybersecurity and the problem that we have. I'm going to crack on. That's just a very brief bit about me and Flywire. We're a managed services provider. We do IT support and consulting and all these good things. Right, so let's have a look. So cybersecurity, a lot of the times when I'm talking to people about cybersecurity, people say to me, well, what's the risk? Why would someone hack me? I don't really have anything of value. So cybersecurity is worth about $6 trillion by 2021, and it's going to be more profitable than the global drug trade. And it could even be the third largest economy after US and China. That's the scale that these guys are operating at. It can happen to you. Your data is valuable to somebody. So what I've put on the slide, you can see a couple of examples of what your details might be worth to somebody. So a hacked Gmail account, for example, worth about $150 on the black market, on the dark web. That's one of the more valuable ones. And the reason for that is a lot of people like to use Gmail to sign into things. You may have seen you're often offered the opportunity to use your Gmail account to sign into various accounts. Saves you having to remember another email and password. But obviously that means you need to keep your Gmail account a little bit more secure. Credit cards, not as valuable, between sort of $10 and $30, depending on what they are. But you can see something like a passport or an ID card, those are quite valuable. And a Facebook account, maybe $70. So what they will try to do, this is the value of an account to someone who's stolen the credentials and they just try to sell it on. That's the easiest way for them to make money because they don't necessarily try to hack your account any further. They just sell that on. So for them, having the details and having the login information, that's worth roughly the figures that we can see there. I've also just put a stat there. It's possible to actually buy malware on the dark web. So if someone is minded to go and get malware and infect people's computers, they can buy for about $2,000 and they can get malware that will infect roughly 1,000 computers in Europe. And for each 1,000 installs, they're probably going to steal tens of thousands of dollars. So it's a good return on investment for them. So what is malware? It's some software that's designed to disrupt or damage or gain unauthorized access on a computer system. That's the really simple definition. And it comes in various shapes and forms. So Spyware is something that will steal your information without you even knowing about it. Then there's ransomware, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. That's basically extortion. That's where they are asking you for money in order to give you your own data back. Cryptocurrency mining. So this is another one where the software gets installed on your computer in the background, uses your CPU, your processing, and your internet bandwidth, and it just slows down your computer. Sometimes it doesn't do anything more than that. Adware is another way where they will redirect your browsing to websites, and by doing so, they can trigger an ad to be displayed, which they will have placed, and then they get money from having that ad displayed, even though it wasn't actually a legitimate display of the ad. And other things malware can do, sending spam, using your internet connection and using your computer processing power. And that's a way for them to hide their footprints so that they can't be detected so easily. So in Q2 2020, one of the latest statistics, 419 brand new versions of malware every minute being detected. So the criminals are on it. Organized crime is huge. Let's just have a quick look at ransomware in a bit more detail. You may already know about this. So this is malware that infects your computer and it encrypts all your files. And when it encrypts all your files, there is absolutely no way that you can decrypt those files. So your only options are to restore all your files from a backup, or if you don't have a backup, you may choose the option to actually pay the ransom. There's no guarantee that if you pay the ransom, they will actually give you the key. Sometimes they don't, but those are your two options. And there's a ransomware attack occurring about every 15 seconds. And they think that $20 billion is the damage being done globally. So let's say you get hit by ransomware and you think to yourself, well, I'll just restore my data and that's the end of it. Think about some of the other parts that might go around if you get infected. So you've got downtime and lost productivity while you're restoring your data. You've obviously got the restoration of the data itself, which may be something that you can do, but you might have to get someone else in. You may need to report that to the Information Commissioner's Office if you have an obligation to do so. You should be informing the customers. You've got complaints to handle. There may be fines, legal costs, compensation. So there's a lot to think about with malware. It's more than just the technical side. How likely are you to get malware? Well, 90% of cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. This is really the go-to attack now for the criminals. Most of it, we're going to talk about email mainly today, but they will also use instant messaging, SMSs as well. They're trying to get you to click on a link. That's how it all starts. And the email will typically impersonate a legitimate organization. And then they want to normally do a couple of things. They either want to capture your personal details or login information. They might try to get you to make a payment. So you may have heard of the scam where the boss, so-called, sends an email to the accountant saying, please pay this invoice immediately. The accountant pays the invoice. It turns out that actually it was the boss's account that was hacked and the money's gone. The other option is to try and redirect you to a website, and they'll download additional malware onto your computer to do some of the things that we talked about before. Spear phishing is a slightly more targeted version of normal phishing. And here they'll have put a little bit more effort in. So they may include your name or the name of the person who they've sent the email from, the position, the company name. It's again just designed to make it seem more legitimate and more likely to succeed. And it works. And it works because it preys on people's emotions and people's instincts. Usually there's an urgent call to action. There's some kind of fear that's instilled in you, and it works. And it's the most common type of form of cyber attack now in the UK. In fact, you're more likely to suffer a breach from a social engineering or phishing attack than a technical problem. So let's see, why are they using email? Well, email is easy to find, obviously really easy to find email addresses. They don't need to prove who they are. It's the primary service for business communications these days. They can talk directly to the person who they're attacking. And even on email, we're still exchanging sensitive data. It's crazy, but in 2020, people are still sending passwords and all kinds of sensitive information. So let's look at Microsoft Office 365 platform. That's very popular today. So Microsoft offers some security with their online protection product. But of course, they make that available to anyone. So anybody can sign up. They can test their spam. They can test their phishing attacks. They can fine tune them, make sure that they go through and they get accepted through the 365 platform. And boom, the emails arrived. It's just a little bit too easy for them. Let's have a quick look at a few examples of some phishing emails. So here's one. Barclays has detected fraud, and they're inviting us to click on the link to let them know that it's not fraud. There's a few things that we can see straight away if we start to have a look. And one is the email address that it's been sent from. Activity alerts at barclays-securityalerts.co.uk. That's our first clue that this is not all as it seems to be, because that's not a valid domain for Barclays. Then we can also see it says, "Dear Barclays customer." It hasn't got our name on it. And the account credit card ending in ****1. Well, normally the banks would give you sort of the last 3 or 4 digits of your card number, not just a 1. All right. However, let's assume you've missed all that and you look at the link and it says ibank.barclays.co.uk. Well, that seems like it could well be legitimate. What we can't see in the screenshot is that if you were to click on that link, you'd get redirected to another site entirely. So hyperlinks can be misleading. What you see in the text can be something else compared to actually where the site is that it's going to take you to. Here's another one that's quite popular, coronavirus alert. This one's got my name in it. It says I've been recorded as leaving my home, and they've added a fine to my gov.uk account. Again, if we look at the email address that this is sent from, it's from penalty-gov.uk, which again is not a legitimate government website. This one looks good. Zoom invite. I don't know who Malcolm Barnes is, but everything else looks quite good. But again, let's look at the email address, zoomo.com. That's clearly not going to be a Zoom invite, but it's pretty convincing. Here's a text message. So this one looks good. Barclays.uk in the link, that's probably legitimate. Well, no, if you look at the link, we'll see actually it's detectattempts.com. That's the domain that we would be sent to. So clearly that's a phishing attack. Another example, email storage limit exceeded. This one's trying to get us to take action straight away. Should remove some emails from my inbox as soon as possible to prevent the loss of future email. Use the email disk usage tool. Here we've got a bit of a grammar clue that maybe all is not as it seems. No one would talk about an email disk usage tool, but to non-technical people, it might seem legit. So in the most recent cybersecurity breaches survey in 2020, they reported that almost half of businesses and about a quarter of all the charities have suffered some sort of a breach in the last 12 months. And most of these are experiencing once a week. They're experiencing these attempts. Another question I get, well, we have antivirus, that'll stop it. Well, antivirus is designed to stop a virus or malware from running on your computer. Phishing isn't always a virus. It's social engineering to convince you to click on a link, as we learned earlier. Some antivirus software may try to scan the link before you click on it, but the bad guys already know this. So what they will do is they will actually hide whatever it is they're trying to do 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 redirects away. And your software isn't going to follow those links, okay? The malicious site that you go to, it may not even contain any malware, because if they're trying to capture your information, your login details, there's nothing to trigger your antivirus and it doesn't get picked up. And then once you've given your login details away, they'll try to sell that, as we saw before. This is the big reason why you should use different passwords on every single site. So how do we spot a phishing email? Well, we talked about this just now. The email address, that's one of the biggest clues, and it's one of the things that is most overlooked. Check the domain part of the email address. Also looking for misspelled domain names, PayPal with 2 L's or pay-pal.com, for example. Also look, did the email come from a Gmail or a Hotmail account? You know, most businesses won't use that to send legitimate emails. Be really suspicious if there's an urgent call to action. You know, verify your account within 24 hours to avoid losing access. Reset your password immediately. I need you to process this invoice immediately. Email limits exceeded. All these kind of things. It's urgent. They want you to act on it without giving it any thought. That's the key. Poor grammar can sometimes indicate that they have used a translation service from, you know, Chinese or Russian, if that was where that was created. So the rule is don't click on links. If you don't know where they came from and you're not 100% certain where the link is going to take you, don't click on a link. What can we do? Well, educating users is obviously really important. Formal phishing training and ongoing training where we send our users test phishing emails and we can report back on whether they were successful or not, and then we can go back and re-educate the users. The best solution, obviously, is to implement an email security system. So this is something that's going to scan every email that comes in and out. It's going to quarantine our suspicious emails. It's going to prevent the links that the email would normally take you to from you being able to go directly. It rewrites the links. And then the system will check where that link is actually going to take you before it does so. It will also analyze the email text for the urgent calls to action that we saw before. So obviously we have a solution that does most of this, or does all of this. Spam and malware detection. We detect advanced threat protection. We use advanced threat protection to detect the phishing attacks before they actually enter your inbox. Rewrite the URL links. We can also do other things like compliance to block file types, and machine learning is to recognize the new stuff that's coming through, because it's impossible to know exactly what's coming through. So we have to be intelligent about how we analyze the emails. The user has control to easily deliver their emails if they're incorrectly quarantined or whitelist them. And we can also do email encryption. There's a signature and disclaimer that can be added to each email as well, which is quite handy because things like Office 365 don't actually have that. We also have an email archiving and a continuity of service feature as well. So just wrapping up, I know I'm a couple of minutes over, I'm going to finish up. So just a few tips. Don't click on links in emails. You do need proper antivirus, and especially on a Mac. A lot of people ask me and they think that they don't need antivirus on a Mac. Macs are highly prized. If a Mac gets malware on it and is compromised, their value is quite high on the dark web because they're just high value. You need to use strong passwords. You need to use different passwords on every single account, and use a password manager because no one can remember them all. One final slide. We're offering a free email threat scan to anybody who's on the call today. This is for Office 365 customers. And what we'll do is we'll run a free scan of all the emails already in the user accounts and the mailboxes. And we'll just give you a report which says, you know, this is how many phishing emails or likely phishing emails you may already have. And that is quite helpful for you to go back to your respective organizations with and say, look, we have actually been receiving a lot of phishing emails and maybe we should take some action over that. So you can contact us, info's on the screen. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. And if there's any questions, I think we are good to take questions. Is that right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Gary. That was very, very interesting. I haven't seen any questions pop up on the Q&A yet. Has anybody in the attending audience got any questions they want to ask of Gary or me? No, I think, well, looks like you're getting off. Oh, hang on, Brian. Yeah, Brian's
I
got
knew
one.
it was going to be too easy.
Yeah. I think I've just right, Brian. I'm assuming you want to ask a question, so I'm going to just press the talk button, and we should be able to hear you now. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just sort of a quick question. So obviously, if your computer get infected with some of this nasty stuff, what's the cost of getting it cleaned up and get your machine back up and running again if you do get infected with these various different things?
Yeah, of course, it's a good question, and the answer depends. It depends what you've got. So something simple like an adware or a pop-up, malware where it's just showing you ads, or where it's infected your browser, it's fairly easy to get rid of most of the time. If you have been hit by ransomware and all your files have been encrypted, there is no fix for that. I mean, you have to reinstall your operating system, and you're going to be recovering your files from a backup, unless you pay the ransom, which I wouldn't suggest you do. So the answer is it depends. It really depends on what the malware is and what it's done to your machine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Yeah, I was just going to say a couple of things, if I may, about website security as well. I know it's not the main topic of discussion here today, but because I'd be interested really in, Gary, in your take on this as well. From our point of view, there are two key elements to what we do on, when we're thinking about security. One is a choice of our hosting provider. So we specifically chose the people that we use for 90% of our stuff. We've been with them for a few years now. We specifically chose them because of a number of reasons, but security was one of them. They have very good sort of backup procedures, automated backup, but more importantly, they will just close a site down immediately if they detect any suspicious activity. And then it's a question, of course, of then talking to them about what needs to be remedied. It hardly ever happens, which is great, but it's kind of nice from our point of view that there is that there is somebody looking out for that kind of activity and taking immediate action to prevent any sort of further damage. So that's one element. The other element is the SSL certificate, the Secure Service Certificate, which is not only a security a good idea from a security point of view, but it's also now a very important part of sort of search visibility and that sort of thing. So everybody's probably been to websites recently that don't have an SSL certificate, and depending on what browser you're using, it will actually warn you that maybe it's a suspicious website when it probably isn't. It just doesn't have an SSL certificate. Gary, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, John, and you're right to use the provider that takes the security seriously. Infecting websites is something that the cyber criminals are experts at. So a lot of people who will, create their own WordPress site, for example, on let's say more basic hosting, which doesn't have any of that, and then they may leave their WordPress unprotected. They don't patch it, they don't install updates and the plugins and everything else that goes around that. That's where a lot of vulnerabilities are. I mean, sometimes the cyber criminals are actually running their own infrastructure. They don't necessarily need to infect other people's websites, but they're not adverse to doing it if they can get away with it. Particularly on a site where there may be some value to be had, some of the bigger sites, for example. And you're right. I mean, SSL certificates are mandatory nowadays to get SSL communications. So that means that everything between the site and the user is encrypted. So that's to stop people man-in-the-middle attacks, they're called, where they can understand what's being exchanged backwards and forwards. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Very important. And Google will penalize you if you're not using them as well. They won't rank your site as highly.
Sure, yeah. We were able to offer a free SSL certificate to our customers. So that's that was one of the main reasons, or one of the top reasons, that we moved to this current hosting provider. yeah, probably about, I think it's about
Very
3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And thanks for mentioning the updates as well. Yeah, I meant to say that. I mean, that's something that we automate now. So the core WordPress version and all plugins are automatically updated. So that just runs on a kind of rolling cycle. It's the WordPress core, that side of things is powered by our hosting provider. Now WordPress in more recent versions has got you've got the ability to just enable automatic updates on a per plugin basis. So we used to use actually another plugin that automated the updates of all the plugins, but now it's a core WordPress feature. You just have to enable it, which of course we do on all sites. So yeah, good stuff. Great. Okay. Well, if nobody has got any more questions, are there any more questions? Last chance. No, I'm not seeing any. Great. So, Gary, just remains for me to say thank you very much for coming along and giving the talk. And we have been recording this, so you'll be sort of, captured for posterity.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, John. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thanks for attending, everybody. I'm going to close the meeting now, but we'll be having another one of these sessions very soon, and we'll let you know via all the usual channels. Thanks, and have a great day, everyone.
Great day. Bye, John.
Bye, everyone. Bye.